and Jackson County Process Server Drexel Mack. Let's listen in.
Very proud of the work that everyone came to do today. I'm going to turn this over to Jack to walk us through the delinquent land tax process. I do want to let you know that we can't take comments about this particular case. As you understand, there's an ongoing investigation, there's an ongoing prosecution, so we cannot take questions about the particular case, but we can talk about the process in general, and Jack is going to do those. So I'm going to turn this over to Jack, and if you'll come on up.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
As Judge Otto said, my name is Jack Foster. I'm Director of the Civil Process Department. It's my understanding that there's been a lot of questions about who the Civil Process Department is, what we do, our training, and as soon as I get through the delinquent land tax information as to what that process is, I'll just have a few comments about Mr. Drexel Mack, as we're all grieving his loss. So first of all, the Civil Process Department is part of the 16th Circuit Court. We perform duties that are normally done by sheriff's departments in other counties. We are somewhat unique in that respect. We are not law enforcement officers, but we perform duties similar to those carried out by sheriff's deputies in other counties of the United States. Our training, I try to match that as closely as I can to law enforcement training. We provide firearms training, personal defense, handgun retention, building search, handcuff techniques, OC, close quarter control tactics, and those sorts of training through a private contractor. We serve all civil papers such as summons, subpoenas, garnishments, and we also execute writs for civil processes in which we seize properties, which would include evictions, which is the process that we'll be talking about today. The delinquent land tax process, that is a process that is initiated by the county, and they collect taxes on properties. I think everyone's aware of all the property taxes that we owe, and as a result, if you're delinquent on your taxes for more than 3 years, then a process is begun by the county in which they will file with the court a petition to put these properties into a delinquent land tax sale. And in September, they go before the court again to render a judgment on the properties that are still delinquent on their taxes to be placed in a sale the following August. After we do a sale, any properties that were sold on the courthouse steps in Independence or in Kansas City, they go before the judge for a confirmation hearing. And at that point, the property owner can come forward to the judge and object to the sale. And so after the judge renders that the sale is confirmed, the party still has 20 days after that for an appeal process. After that appeal process takes place, we'll work on an issuance of what we call a court administrator's deed. And then once that deed is issued, we'll record it with the recorder of deeds with the county, and then we will provide that to the purchaser from the delinquent land tax sale. Once the purchaser has the court administrator's deed, they can take possession of the property that they bought on the courthouse steps. And if someone is still at the residence at that time, they will ask for a writ of possession from the court. And it's part of the judgment in the confirmation process that we provide immediate possession of that property to the new owner, and that's when the writ is issued, and our personnel from the Civil Process Department will go out and post said residence. In this case, I think it was about a 7-day window between when we posted the residence and when we went out to execute the writ. All right. So, but that is the general process for us to go out and execute those writs. So before I take any questions, our department is very small. I hired Mr. Mack almost 10 years ago. He was a kind man, a good heart. In his time here, he was nominated as Employee of the Month, and he won Employee of the Year based on this nomination, and it was provided by one of our clerical staff. And I'd just like to read a few comments from there. Deputy Mack has put forth an impressive effort since he started in our department. He was previously an employee of Family Court, but we are very fortunate that he chose to come work with us. As an execution deputy, he is responsible for serving and executing our most important and time-sensitive papers. He does evictions, levies, and service of ex parte orders. I have noticed a dramatic rise in service since Deputy Mack started. He goes above and beyond to serve orders of protection. He makes every effort to get his ex parte order served. He will make multiple tips within a short time frame. This includes working nights and weekends. Many times, ex parte orders are filed with incomplete or incomplete addresses. Deputy Mack will call petitioners and do his best to ascertain a proper address for successful service. His hard work often pays off and he gets his papers served. Besides carrying a heavy load of his own papers, Deputy Mack often volunteers to help other deputies by taking some of their papers. He is a team player who believes in helping others get his job done. Mr. Mack has a sister who lives in town. He also has a 19-year-old son that he's just graduated and is so proud of him, but he lives in Miami. So he has family here and he has family in the Florida area. He has a fiance who has 3 children who he loved and liked as his own and was to be married in the near future. I'd also like to thank the Independence Police Department. They came to our rescue and they paid the price. I'll take any questions at this time.
Mr. Foster, for this work, is it usually done independently until something is deemed dangerous, or what ended up happening here?
Well, we have a process in place in which we try to evaluate each situation. Of course, we get over 3,000 papers a month, and so we can't properly evaluate everything that comes across our desk. But generally speaking, we send one person out for most of the service we do, but if we have any indication that there's a problem, we will send 2, and if we believe there's more extenuous circumstances, we would ask for law enforcement assistance.
I know it's early, but are there any plans to change this policy and move it to pairs?
It's still too early in the investigation for us to determine if anything needs to be changed at this time.
They looked at like bulletproof vests, and can you clarify why they do it by the sheriff's deputies, why they don't do it by sheriff's deputies here, and your department doesn't? So I'm just trying to wrap my mind around that.
Right. This was created back in 1973 as part of Jackson County's charter. That's where we derive our authority from. And as closely as I can, I came from KCPD after 30 years, retired from that department. And so I bring a wealth of police knowledge to this department. I have other command level staff members working for me as well. So we're quite familiar with law enforcement techniques. Our personnel wear bulletproof vests. They wear polo shirts with a court emblem on it, so there's no mistaking who they are. They have firearms. They have oleo resin capsaicin. And other than that, we don't have arrest powers, but we act pretty much in the same capacity as law enforcement officers in other areas.
What kind of vehicles are they driving for these?
For the most part, we have them drive their own private vehicles and compensate them.
The possession was on February 9th of this year, and that's what they were executing.
I'm sorry?
The writ of possession?
I think it was requested on or about that date, and then I'm not sure exactly what the date was when we posted the residence, but then obviously yesterday we were out to execute that writ, but they were given ample notice that our posting would notify them that we are coming for the eviction and let them know. We just don't give them the date and time when that is going to occur.
Can you talk about what stood out to you when you did the interview process for Mr. Mack, of kind of his character, the type of human he was, and what it's like now?
You know, Mr. Mack had a big heart. He obviously meant a lot to us. Our staff is grieving. And anyway, I'm trying to focus at this point in time on my staff and their needs.
Would you say it was a small department? Are we talking like 5 people, 15, 20?
If fully staffed, I have 15 field staff members who go out and serve papers and execute the writs, and then I have 7 clerical staff members as well as some support staff.
And you said that you file 3,000 of these every year, or has it increased because of with the changes in Jackson County taxes and stuff?
The number of papers that come to the court, we don't control who files the court papers, but on average, it's anywhere from 2,500 to 3,000 plus papers in a month that we receive for service.
When the assessments go up, though, I guess my question is, have there been a dramatic increase of these as a result?
I don't know the answer to that.
What's the normal process when it comes to entering the property, you know, going up the driveway, going up to the door? What does that normally look like?
Well, we teach our people to be cognizant of the fact that they need to approach from an angle and take every precaution to notice anything that's out of the unusual, so to speak. And at some point in time, we all have to cross the threshold and go into the house to make sure it's clear, so that whoever the new owner is, that we've made sure that the residence is empty and that there's no risk for them to take over the property.
Can you give us any additional context just about kind of the general dangers faced on the job, and you know how often these things, service can go with incidents or without?
I mean, I would be somewhat speculative in some respects, but there's a lot of things that we do where we're sort of like a mail carrier. We're delivering papers to certain businesses and that sort of thing. And then there's these other processes in which, when you're going into a house, you never know what you're going to encounter. So there are some similarities to what law enforcement officers face in the field.
Has any of the staff ever expressed concerns about going alone to these situations?
I'm sure there's probably been some, but I don't know of them specifically.
You've been in touch with Mr. Mack's family?
Yes, we contacted her today.
Did they give you any sort of statement? Or?
I don't have anything to provide at this time.
And you described Mr. Mack as somebody who had a very positive relationship with his coworkers. He was a team player. What support is currently being offered to people who were close to him in the workplace?
We're looking at several different options. We've had a lot of support from the community. We're part of the, I didn't mention the crisis intervention team, but the mental health piece of that. We have EAP. So we're looking at, I mean, we basically have an outpouring of support, and we're trying to go through those options and talk to our staff to see what their needs are as well. We met with them this morning to discuss what they need. And some people will probably need individual discussions, and others may be okay, but we're just assessing those things at this time.
Serving something like Mr. Mack was doing, would that be considered one of the most dangerous parts of this job?
You know, you never know what you're going to walk into. I mean, I served in law enforcement for a number of years. You never knew what a problem might arise. But anytime you go into an unknown, then there's a potential. But there was no indication in this case that I'm aware of.
You mentioned they take some similar to law enforcement training when it comes to going up to the premises and how they carry themselves. What's the training like for when they go into the home? What things are they looking for or expecting?
Well, obviously, little things. I mean, if a house is vacant, then it's going to echo, and we would have a presumption that it's probably empty. But otherwise, you're just really going through and carefully trying to partition off each room and make sure. Obviously, we're making announcements, and that we're not trying to surprise anyone. So we make announcements of our presence to let them know we're there. Our whole intent is just to get them out peacefully. So obviously, that didn't happen in this case.
Any past histories of incidences like this?
I am not aware of anything of this gravity.
For the process, the person had, I think, 28 days, they're behind 3 years in their back taxes. It sounds like the house gets kind of sold on the courthouse steps. I'm assuming that the back taxes get paid then by the new owner. Does the previous owner who's behind on back taxes get a large portion of that money, or the loan from the bank, or kind of where does the rest of the money go besides the taxes?
There-
What it's sold for?
There is a process, and that happens in the excess proceeds hearing case, in which the judge would, people would petition for those funds. So if there are creditors or other taxing authorities or anyone with liens against the property, but even the resident themselves, if they apply for those funds, the judge will hear those cases and determine how those funds are distributed.
So if a person has a lien on a property in that process, that could initiate this?
That would be in the judge's purview to answer that. Any other?
What is the process if the previous owner, in the course of delivering these documents, refuses to leave? Or was the person yesterday supposed to leave at the time? I don't know the exact details of that topic, but the writ was requested and we went out to execute the writ.
On the probable cause statement, it said it was February 9th, 2023, but it wasn't this year's date, correct? February 9th, 2024.
Yeah. Yes, that was an incorrect entry.
Do you know how he was able to contact authorities?
We don't talk
I mean,
about
once
the
the shots
specific
fired,
case.
you
We
know.
don't.
No, we're not going to talk about the specifics of the case. Thank you.
I do want to say one last thing, just to add on to this, because there's been a question that we've had. Due to the nature of the courts and what we do, we are unable to solicit funds from the general public to aid in any crisis moment like this. So some questions have been asked about why don't we have a GoFundMe page. We have ethical obligations as a court to always remain neutral, so we cannot ask for funds for the public to come in for any parts of what we do or for those that we work with. That being said, it's my understanding that Mr. Mack's family is working with the Calvary Christian Outreach Network, and they have a GoFundMe page that I believe they are working on right now. His family with the Calvary Christian Outreach Network. It's also my understanding that once that is live, that it would also be on the Independence Police Department's social media page, as well as probably other law enforcement partners' media page. They will work through that, but that is not something the court is involved in at all. And again, Mr. Foster said it, but I will echo it. We are so grateful for all of the law enforcement responses that came to the aid yesterday, and that are still coming to the aid of all of our employees through all of their crisis teams, therapy teams. They have been tremendous to us and Mr. Mack's family, both here as well as in Florida. The Florida law enforcement officers have also done a tremendous job getting his family notified and working through that. So I just want to make sure you guys were aware of that. Okay.
Do you want to say anything else? No, there's been 24 hours about the outreach.
All right, so you have just been listening to Judge Otto there, but also Jack Foster, director of the Civil Process Department there with the Jackson County Court, speaking about his department and also the roles of his employees. But in particular, he spoke about
Yesterday was very, very difficult. It was very, very difficult for me Personally, being at the hospital, it was very difficult working with Jack. A number of his team were at the hospital yesterday, and then we had a group here holding down the fort. And the fact that at 8 o'clock this morning, hundreds of employees walked back in this building to do their job in light of what happened yesterday, that's phenomenal. I mean, we have the best employees here. Citizens of Jackson County should be very proud of the work that we do here in this building. Jack and his team, everyone on this team, it is hard work, it's difficult work. We do it because we love it, we're passionate about it, and we're just happy we're able to serve you guys. All right.
Are you looking at changing any procedures or adding bulletproof vests or any other safety measures? This was inconceivable that this would happen. It did happen, and it would be horrific if it happened again.
So one of the things we're talking about is getting through this moment. When there's trauma, we have to get through this moment, and then we evaluate. I mean, that's what we will always do, is we will continue to evaluate as we go forward. I do believe you asked a question of me yesterday I was unable to answer about was this related to rent. This was not about unpaid rent. I just want to make sure this is taxes. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you all.
I'm telling you what. Oh, no. I'm just going to get knocked over.